What's going on, guys? In today's video we are going to be developing a hybrid application in Ionic 4, and the application in question is actually a game, which is a card matching game. You can see I have it running over here, and in today's part we're going to go so far as to make the home screen, add the level button, and upon clicking the button we're gonna display all the cards, and basically once you click the card it shows the image behind that card in question, right? So you can see here each image contains a different fruit, and if you were to match the fruits you would basically eliminate those cards, and then you would have 3 or 4 tries to get all of them correctly. But without getting too ahead of ourselves, what is Ionic Framework, right? So Ionic Framework basically works on web technologies using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We can write one code and basically deploy that to an iPhone, Android device, any tablets, or even the web, as I'm doing right here on Firefox. And that makes it incredibly powerful because it's cross-platform. It includes all these components to make developing very easy, and the simplicity of the whole thing, right? So let's get started. What are you gonna need? First off, you gotta get npm. So npm, you can install it for Windows, Linux, Mac OS. Just click the button, install it. Once you've done that, you're gonna have to go ahead to the Ionic website, and you can copy this command over here, and that's gonna go ahead and install the Ionic framework into your system, right? And then once you have Ionic installed, we're ready to begin. Alright, so you installed Ionic. Now it's time for us to initiate our first project. So let's do Ionic start, the name of the project, let's call it fruit match, and we're gonna use a blank template. So let's go ahead and run that. We're gonna use the Angular framework, so hit enter, and now it's gonna go ahead and create that project for us. So let's give it a second. Alright, it's finished creating the project. So the first thing we need to do is to cd into our project's directory. So cd fruit match. Now we're inside the actual projects folder. And to go ahead and run the project, you can type Ionic serve. Now let's give it a second here. Alright, there we go. So this is our blank template. So we have our project open. One really cool thing is we can just keep developing now and just leave this code running, and it's gonna update it for us in real time. So let's go ahead and open the folder for our project. So go to open folder, and let's open the fruit match folder, and it loads up the entire structure of our project here. So let's collapse the source folder, and here you can see we have our app folder, which includes this main page that you're seeing here, the Ionic blank title, that is inside the home folder. So if we click on home.page.html, we can see this code over here. So let's go ahead and make a few changes. We're gonna call this card matching game, and we can change some of the information here as well. So let's type welcome to card matching game. And while we're at it, let's do a align to center so that our text is aligned properly to the center of the screen. And then here we're gonna write, let's delete this over here, and let's write simply match all the fruits to win. And now we can go ahead and save this. Now notice that once we saved, it immediately updates our project over here. So that's how we're gonna keep developing this and watch the changes in real time. Now whenever you want to stop running your project, you can go ahead and press Ctrl C, and then it's gonna ask if you want to terminate it. Let's put yes. There we go. Now what we want to do is let's add a new page to our project, and this page we're gonna call level 1. So we can type Ionic G, which is short for generate page, and the name level 1. Alright, cool. So you can see it generated all the level 1 properties inside our directory. Now let's go ahead and serve the project again. Alright, so it ran the project. Now that we have that page, you can notice that we have a new folder here called level 1, and we can even click on it to see that it's a blank page for now. So we can go ahead and change the title here. Let's just do level 1 like that. We'll go ahead and save it. Now one important thing about Ionic is, notice here on app routing, these are the pathways inside of our application to which we can link the different pages. And you can see that once we generate the new page, the path for level 1 is automatically added in our routing module. So what that means and what you need to know is, if we go ahead and let's say we add a button here to our home page like that, we have a few different properties here. Ionic button being the tag that creates that button, and we have the router link, which is basically the link to the page. So if we had added a page called level 5, you'd have to call this level 5 and it would link to that page. And the router direction basically is the special effect we're gonna have on that page. So let's go ahead and save this with the new button we just added. There we go. You can see we now have the level 1 button here, but we have no text on the level 1 page yet. So let's just put a little bit of text here just so we can see some actual content once we load up that page. So let's do a new div, align to the center of course, and we're gonna add a header and let's write match all cards to win. Then we can close that tag and close the div as well, and we can save this. And let's test our link here. Let's click on level 1. There you go, and you can see that now we have both pages connected. Alright, now if you open your projects folder, fruit match over here, inside of that directory, head over to source, and inside of source, let's go into assets. Now here in the assets folder, we're gonna create a new directory and call it img for image. And just like a website, this is where we can place all of our images for our project. So let's go inside of that, and I'm gonna paste here the images we're gonna need for our project, and I'll have a link for them in the description below so you can download them from my blog. Now, if we take a look at them here, we have simply the background for the cards that we're going to use, along with the fruits that we're going to use for our project. So let's move on now. Alright guys, at this point it's time to get into some code. Now, where do we put this code? Well, inside of each folder you're gonna find a .ts file. In this case it's right here, and this is where we put the code. But before we get into any code, if you're using Sublime Text, what you're gonna want to do is go to Preferences, Package Control, TypeScript. You're gonna go to Install Package, and then you put TypeScript, and you're gonna see a package called TypeScript Syntax, and you're gonna want to install that package, and that's basically so you can get the proper colors and syntax for TypeScript, which is basically JavaScript but slightly different. And for you to activate the syntax, I guess you have to go View, Syntax, and TypeScript Syntax, and you can see I have mine activated over here. So if you're in Sublime, you're gonna want to do the same thing. Now let's get to some code. So we're gonna add the first few preliminary variables that we're gonna need for our project here. So let's do public cards total, and let's do 12. I'm gonna write a little commentary here. Total cards to match divided by 2. So basically there's gonna be 6 pairs of cards to match, which total 12. Then we're gonna need an array, so let's call it cards array. Alright, we'll do it like that. Store all card pairs. Then we're gonna need the amount of lives that the user is gonna have, so we can call it user life. I think we'll start off with 4, and we can change that later if anything. Total amount of tries user gets. Alright, and now we're gonna need a image directory. So basically we're gonna have a string that's gonna result in the directory where we stored our images. So that's gonna be dot assets image fruits. Alright, so that's where the fruit images are located, and we're also gonna need a images array, and basically we're gonna store the individual image names inside of this array. So let's go ahead and do apple, then we're gonna do strawberry, apple green, cherry, let's move this over here, grape green, grape purple, peach, and pear. Oops, pear. Alright, like that. Alright, at this point what we're gonna do is add some HTML into our level 1 page, and this is already gonna give you a better idea of how Ionic works with the variables in conjunction with the HTML. So we're gonna do actual cards display, and we're gonna start off with a ion row, which is a Ionic row. We're gonna set it up to align items to the center. So we need to put text center as well, and the size for this is gonna be 8. All right, so we can go ahead and close that, and then inside we're gonna do a Ionic which is a column. So we have the row followed by the column. We're gonna align self center. So if you're unfamiliar with these tags, don't worry, I'll link the Ionic docs below, and with some time you'll become familiar with them. And the size for this one is gonna be 3. And now this is where it gets a little interesting. We're gonna do a for loop. So this is the syntax for that. We're gonna do ng for, all right, and we do like this: let c of cards array, let I equals index. So basically the I is gonna be the numerical value for that array. And for each one of those, we're gonna add a image, all right, where the source is gonna be assets image, and then I think we did cards background.png. Okay, and now let's do a little bit of style. This is where the CSS becomes very useful, being able to just add any CSS on demand usually helps a lot. We'll do 80 pixels for the height and the width, and then we can do a border of let's do solid 2 pixels, and we'll do like that for a black border, and we can do a border radius of like 12, I guess, like that. Cool. So we can close this up, and we can close the column as well. Let's save that. And you can see we're not displaying any cards so far. So let's add some code to do that. All right, let's go back to our TS script. All right, so the first function we're gonna create is gonna be a function to populate cards array with position and value pairs from 0 to 6. So what that means is for every 2 positions we're gonna want the same value. So this code might look a little confusing, but it's actually, that's all it's doing. So we're gonna have like 0 and 1 is going to be equal to 1, and then 2 and 3 is going to be equal to 2, and then 4 and 5 is going to be equal to 3, and so on. So that, you know, every 2 cards have the same numerical value. That's basically what we're going for. So we start that by doing cards array equals to blank. All right, so you want to blank it out right at the beginning, and then we're going to do var x equals 0 and var y equals 0. Gonna need both of these, and let's do a nice old-fashioned loop here. Var I equals 0, I is less than this dot cards array, cards total, I plus plus. Then inside of the loop we're gonna do this dot cards array dot push, and we're gonna want to do position equals to I, okay, and value equals to I. All right, now we're gonna do if x equals to 0, we're gonna set x to 1, else x equals 0 and y plus plus. All right, so flip x to a sign next card the same value. Cool. And here we're basically pushing the card to the array and assign the value. Alright, so it's going to be I equals to 0, and then I equals to 1, and it's going to be equal the same y value, and then it's going to be I equals to 2, I equals to 3, it's going to be equals to 1. You guys get the idea, right? Now, whenever we want to run a function right at the beginning of that page, what we have to do is we have to run it right here on the ng-on-init function. So let's do this dot populate cards. We can just do it like that, and if I save this, you see we now have all the cards in display here. Alright, let's move on now. Alright, now we're going to be adding another function here, and this function I actually did not write it. I'm pretty sure I got it from Stack Overflow, and it's this function over here. So you can pause the video and copy this function. You can follow through line by line to get a better idea of what it does, but basically it just goes into the array you pass it, and it's going to keep decreasing I and randomizing that array. So this is important because we're gonna want to get the array of populated cards, and we're gonna want to shuffle that up, right? So we can just go ahead and do a shuffle right over here like that, and we can just pass this card's array like that. And now we're gonna have all of these values that we just populated, but instead of them being linear, they're going to be shuffled up. Alright, and we're also gonna go ahead and do the same thing for this image array that we created, right? So you can see there's a specific order: apple, strawberry. We don't want these values to be in the same order every time, so we definitely want to go ahead and do a shuffle on them as well. And there's different shuffle algorithms. This is a simple one. You can find more complex algorithms online if you look for them, but for this purpose of the tutorial, this will do. Now let's keep going. So for this game, the user is going to select 2 cards at a time, right? So let's go ahead and create the variables for the user to select those cards. So we're gonna do public select card 1 POS for position. We're gonna start off with -1. Selected card number 1 position. Then we're gonna do public select card 1 val -1. Selected card number 1 value, and then we can just copy this code and do 2, right? So basically the user is gonna get to select 1 card, alright, and then we set the image and the value, and then he selects the second card. So if it matches, we'll go ahead and eliminate that card from the game. Otherwise, we'll remove a life and they get a chance to guess again, right? So one thing we're also gonna need is a function to reset the cards to these values. That's whenever the user starts a new game, we're gonna wanna set it to -1. So that's gonna be an integral component of the programming to know when the cards are still selected at -1. So let's just do a function called let's do function to reset selected cards, and we're gonna call this reset select. We can just put this code here. All right, it's oh, we gotta change public to .this actually. So let's copy that. Remove public .this. All right, we'll save that. Cool. So yeah, this function is gonna go ahead and reset the positions whenever we have to do that. Now, something that's very useful while developing an application is a debug text. So let's do a public debug text, and we can just write anything here. We'll say debug text goes here, little smiley face. Now let's go back to our HTML page, and underneath the row we can do a div, line center, and let's do an h5, which is a header, and we're gonna write, so whenever you want to display the value of a variable in the HTML file, you can just do like this, and inside we can just put the name of that variable. So debug text, and we'll close this guy up and close the div up, and now once I save, you should see the value of this variable here. See, debug text goes here, and this is going to be useful for us to get the value in real time of certain variables while we're developing the game. Alright, now it's time to create our final function for the day, and this will be one of the more complicated functions for this game, and function to select a card. We're gonna call this one select card, and we're gonna pass a position and a value to it, and we're gonna be passing that from the HTML page, but we're gonna start with a simple form of this function so you guys can get an idea of how it's gonna go down. So let's do code to select the first card, and basically all we're gonna do is we're gonna set the select card 1 position equals to the position, and select card 1 value to the value. Alright, and then what we can do is we can do this dot debug text equals position, we'll do a space, and then we'll display the actual position, and value, and we'll go ahead and display the actual value as well. Alright, so let's save this. Now let's go back to our HTML page here, and we are gonna add some conditional to this image here. So to add a condition to the HTML page, we do asterisk ng if, and then double quotes, and the condition is gonna be, remember that we have C as each individual card of our array. So if we do C dot POS, which is the position, is different than select card 1 POS, and C dot POS is different than select card 2 POS and C dot value is greater than -1, then we're gonna go ahead. So basically this is the condition. If these conditions are met, we're gonna go ahead and display the image which contains the background image, right? So yeah, if I save this, you can see that nothing changes, because once the page fires up, we go ahead, populate the cards, and we shuffle them. So basically each card in here already has a specific position and value assigned to them, right? But now what we're gonna do is we need to put an action for when we click on each card. So let's do parentheses click and then open double quote, and we'll do select card, and then we can do c.pos, c.value, and we can save it. So now if we go ahead and click here in our program, see what happens? The card disappears. So let's click another card, and you can see the real-time update down here of what exactly is the position and what is the value, right? Remember, we're shuffling these, so they're all mixed up in here. Alright, so that's pretty cool, right? But we actually wanna, instead of making it disappear, we want to make the image show up. Now the reason why we get the card disappearing like this is because of this condition, right? So basically what we have to do is we have to copy this image tag, and we have to put a special condition for when the selected card position matches the C dot position. So let's just copy this, and we're going to remove this source for now. Alright, and let's work on the condition first, alright? So let's do the following condition here. If C dot position is equal to select card 1 position, and we'll delete this part over here, and C dot value is greater than -1, then we're gonna go ahead and display this block of image. And now we have to work on getting the actual image path. Now remember how we have this images array? Well, this happens to be the exact name of the image that we want to display. And we also have the image directory that we want to display. So with that said, we can do a source tag like this, and that's going to resolve the variables that we use inside of the double quotes. So we can just do image directory, and now we need to get the actual value from the images array. So we do images c.value, and we need to put the extension. So that's going to be .jpeg. Alright, there we go. So basically this will display the image for us, and it's only going to display if it matches the exact card that's disappearing in our program. And one thing that I always like to do is we can add another text down here, to display some of those variables just in case. So we can do image dir, and then we can do another one for the images and select card, one POS, and we can do the extension .jpg, and we'll close that up. Now let's save it, and now let's click one of these cards. There's the peach, there's a strawberry, and yeah. Oh, actually the name here is not correct. Oh, that's because we put the position. We're supposed to have the value, right? Not the position. So let's try like this. Let's try again. Peach, yep, shows the peach image. Grape, there we go. So yeah, now we're displaying the actual correct names with the correct images. And yeah, moving on, we're gonna start implementing eliminating the images once you click the matching cards. But yeah, for today, that's gonna be it. Hope you guys enjoyed part 1, and I'll see you next time.